What's going on, everybody? Thought I would let you guys tag along while I stain these antlers. I found these a few years ago. It's a deadhead, and when I found it, it was pretty well sheltered from the sun, so it didn't get completely bleached out, but you can tell it is a little bit lighter than it should be. So I figured, hey, it's the weekend, I'm bored, let's stain some antler. So I'll be using potassium permanganate to stain that rack. This is a chemical that you'll see on operating tables. They'll rub it on the skin and it disinfects the skin, but this stuff is used many different ways and for many different things. And for us hillbillies, we use it for staining antler. Well, at least me. I've had pretty decent results. It gives it a nice dark look to it, depending on how many coatings you put on. But when you mix it in water, it looks purple, but it dries brown. So it kind of freaks you out at first, but you'll see what I mean. But the consistency is a lot like gunpowder. If I can get that open with one hand. But you can see that right there. Get in the light. And this stuff is really cheap. I think this was like $12. And you can see how much is left. I've given some to people and I've used it many times. You don't need that much. This will last literally forever. So let's try it. So as far as supplies go, I got 150 grit sandpaper. That's for when it's done and dried. You can scuff these edges here. You'll get that ivory look, which is really cool. Do it on the tips and things like that, but it'll make it look like it was rubbed. You know how they polish them off. Got some masking tape to throw around here so it doesn't stain the skull. Some different brushes of different sizes. Some water to mix with the chemical. Let's mix it up. So there is a bit of a ratio between the powder and the water. I just kind of wing it. I just eyeball it. The more obviously you put in of this, the darker it'll be. But sprinkle a little bit of that in there. A little bit of water. Mix that up. As you can see, I don't know if that's picking that up very well, but look how purple that is. Obviously, the darker the liquid is, the darker it'll go on the antler. So that looks pretty dark. I'm gonna put a little bit more water in there. Mix that up. And it's good to have some test subjects. Get like a shed or something like that. Rub it on there and just see what that looks like, just so you don't destroy a nice rack, which I'm about ready to do, I think. I don't know. And little did I know, masking tape does not do well on skull. So I would maybe recommend duct tape or some other form of tape. That's not that great. Feels like it's gonna fall off, but it'll be good enough. Okay, so for filming purposes, I think it looks better sitting up, so I got a tire iron. I know that's very professional, but that's gonna hold the head up so you can actually see what I'm doing. All right, let's try it out. I honestly think it would be better if it was laying down, just so the liquid doesn't run, down to the head. It would just run the other way, but we'll try it out. So I like to go a little bit lighter toward the tips, just because those are always a little bit lighter. Obviously toward the end they have those white tips normally. So you gotta consider that. But you can see how it's browning up already pretty well. So this buck, when he died, he had a little bit of velvet still right here. This is how I found him, but you can still see a little bit of velvet right here. And it looks like it was stripped a little bit right there. So it was already white when he died. So that'll make it a little darker. If you're going over any sort of velvet at all, any strips, it'll be darker. So be aware of that. So that's how it's coming along. I'm gonna let that dry and I'm gonna work on that other side, but to give you an idea. It's a little dark right now, but it'll dry and lighten up a little bit. And once that does dry, we'll scuff it a little bit and it'll lighten up those tips a little bit too. But no antler is perfect. You know that they have their own characteristics and they're unique in their own way. And at this point, you are the artist, so do what you like. So I think I'm gonna let these dry before I throw that sandpaper on them. But I mean, not too bad. And you can touch them up as you go. The problem spots on this one are gonna be the spots where the velvet was. It just kind of gives you a different surface to try to color, and it's just a little bit different. It colors up just a bit different, but I mean, it just makes it a little bit unique in my opinion. But yeah, we'll let it dry and I'll show you what it looks like. So I only gave that probably about a half hour and it's already pretty dry. It dries really quick. I could have probably started the sanding a little bit sooner. And when I mean sand, I mean like a light scuff. So I just take this sandpaper just by hand and just do this. Just make the ridges or the elevated points white. You don't want to sand them down to where they're, they're flat, but you can see it gives it that texture look. See how that's working out? I think you could use probably an SOS pad, maybe. I think it'd kind of get broken up a little bit too much, but that might work. And if you want to get in there and go in one of the vein lines here, you could probably do that. Those vein lines, you can probably get in there with a Dremel and it'd work out pretty well. But if you wanted to, you can get in there and lighten it up a bit. But if you want the inside, you know, right in here, if you want that a little lighter, get in there and lighten it up a little bit. You're the artist. I've never seen a perfect set of antlers, honestly. As far as colors go, okay, there's a few, but I've seen a lot that have their own unique characteristics. In fact, they all do, but they all don't look, every set does not look the same. I mean, already you can kind of get the idea there. If I can get that to focus. It's already looking really good. So I'm gonna kind of go over the rest of it, start on that side, and hopefully it'll be done. But that'll give you a pretty good idea of what it's supposed to look like. As you can see right down in there, I think I'm gonna touch that up a little bit just down there by that burr, just a little bit, but just do a light scuff, nothing real serious. Just lighten up those edges or those elevated parts of the antler where it would naturally rub and polish it off. It gives you that look right there. And honestly, that does not look half bad, really. So I'm gonna touch that up just a bit, and I think it'll be pretty much done, honestly. I didn't have to do a whole lot to that, but I'll give you an idea of what you can do. You can bring them back to life pretty easy if they're in relatively good shape. And as you're waiting for things to dry, take a drink of your favorite beverage. I prefer water. All right, well, that'll do it. Turned out real well. I'm not a professional by all means. I'm sure there's some taxidermists out there that might cringe at this, but for a do-it-yourself, you can't really beat it. I mean, the bases turned out real good. And for such a cheap product, this potassium permanganate, I mean, it's so cheap and it lasts forever. You may want to check it out. But yeah, there's another look at it. I do have some other heads inside that I could probably touch up a little bit, so maybe in the future I'll do that, but I think it turned out real well. I do have a mount right here. This is dead on display, check them out. It's what I've mounted up, probably 3 or 4 heads in my house. It's an awesome mounting system, very strong, but if you watched all the way through, I give you credit because I'm kind of unbearable sometimes, so I appreciate it. If you feel so inclined, please subscribe. Thanks.